Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Irish Warriors MMA show. Today we have Sam Mc Nally. How are you doing today, Sam?
I'm good, Dennis. Thanks. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. How are you preparing now? You have Nogi Worlds coming up in a couple of days. You're in New York at the moment, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, at the moment I'm in New York, so I'm doing the last couple of days training, the last week of training here as I sharpen up, and then I'm gonna fly out to Las Vegas on the 10th of December.
That's pretty good. That's pretty good. I think I've woken you up very early. I was checking the time. I'm sorry about this, Sam. Thank you very
Ah,
much
no,
for coming on. I appreciate it though. So a big question I've been meaning to ask over the past couple of years, or the past kind of 2 years, I think you've had a massive influx of MMA fighters into your gym. You've had Richie Smullen, you've had Gary Rooney, you've had Amy Scully, and we've seen a massive jump in their level since they've joined your gym. How has training alongside them influenced your own development as a grappler? And do you think their styles have impacted your approach to Nogi competition, or do you think it has remained the same?
great question, and I'll give you a funny answer. I'm training in Essential at the moment. So when I was here 2 years ago, the first time I came here was 2 years ago doing an ADCC camp. So up until that point, I'd never done basically any formal wrestling, so I didn't know a lot of the actual wrestling techniques that are the fundamentals. Yeah, I learned a lot of them here, and then over the last 2 years, a lot of MMA fighters have started coming through the gym, and most of those people obviously are very focused on wrestling. So I've spent so much time on my feet that I wouldn't have done otherwise, doing a lot of wrestling. And now when I'm back training, I get to spar with all the people that I would have initially been sparring with 2 years ago that I've not really done intense nogi training with since then. And I'm able to actually hang with them on the feet now, which is a huge difference. So the wrestling is a massive impact. And another part as well is actually being able to control somebody who's trying to stand back up, because obviously every in MMA, if you ever watch like very strong grapplers. They're always able to get back up to their feet, working back body locks, being able to defend. So I've just gotten so much better at being able to control those positions in a way that you wouldn't pick up otherwise unless you're training with people who are specifically trying to achieve those objectives of getting back to
Yeah.
their feet and counter wrestling and not being taken down. So yeah, it's a big impact.
So, as someone who's trained with the top athletes, what do you believe, or do you believe that there is something that sets apart the Irish grappling and MMA scene from the global scene? Do you believe we have a mental edge, or there's just something different about us?
Um, no, not really. I think it's just a question of people training and turning up consistently over years. I suppose you hear like you ever hear of someone becoming an overnight success? You don't hear about the 10 years before that of what happens there. So I don't think we have any specific uh, tricks that other places don't have. I think a big part in Ireland is the fact that we are such like a developed economy that there's more people that can make a living from sports relative to other places, which is a big deal because it lets you train more essentially. Like
Yeah.
even if you have to train and work, like I know the people who you're able to teach some kind of grappling or martial arts, things like that. That makes a massive difference for people's development that I've seen over time, not just in myself but in other people too. So there's that.
With Nogi Worlds kind of just days away, what has been the focus of your preparation? Because I know you said your wrestling has gone up in huge levels. Have you implemented any kind of new strategies or techniques, or would you rather keep that quiet till after the competition?
No, I'll let you know. Well, I certainly won't be wrestling because it's not to your advantage in the IBJJF.
Yeah.
Um, since I like just training wise for the past kind of 4 day weeks, I've just trying to maintain my fitness and ability. The last IBJJF competition I did was no Europeans, and I got silver. I lost out in the final by an advantage. So some of those positions where I kind of lost out on, I've been working on, just trying to sharpen myself up. But mainly, I'm just trying to get a little bit better everywhere and a little bit more precise in my strategy of like knowing exactly where I'm going from the guard, exactly where I'm going and passing, and then obviously just being generally like fit and well physically prepared for
Yeah.
hard scraps. That's it.
So something I've been meaning to ask: your victory over Garry Tonon in 2022, fucking massive moment for jiu-jitsu and just Irish jiu-jitsu in general. How did it feel to beat someone of that caliber? And what did you think allowed you to beat Garry and find success in that match?
Well, in the moment, it just felt like another win because there were still four more or three more people to beat to win the tournament. I unfortunately went out in the next round, but I was just kind of focused on keeping going. But the aftermath obviously was significant because just a lot of people saw it, and that kind of was a big impact on me in a way that I didn't realize how big the whole ordeal was, especially just meeting people in jiu-jitsu or just
Yeah.
anywhere really, and that would know about the ADCC or grappling, and they'd know about that match and all. Um, but I think things that allowed me or that enabled it was just consistent training of staying at it for so long. I'm 30 years old now, so I've trained since I was 16, and I've trained like super consistently since then. I've been, or sorry, not since I was 16. So that's what, like 14 years. I've trained very consistently, and I've basically just been dedicated to doing only jiu-jitsu for since I was 19, essentially. So I think that's about it. It's just long term staying at it, and just being in the game.
So you were recently on Polaris against Cole Bate.
Correct.
Um, but how did you prepare for such a match like that? Because I know you were demanded to be in the gi for that match. Like,
Yeah.
would you have preferred to do that in the nogi? And is that something you'd like to potentially run back in the nogi and maybe see how?
Yeah. I might get to run it back next weekend. And I'd feel a lot more confident fighting him no gi, especially after feeling him with the gi on. The preparation for that was literally I just put a gi on and tried to do more specific cardio related to the gi because it's more physical. Obviously, it wasn't ideal circumstances, but I wasn't going to turn up a match with such a high profile athlete.
Yeah.
Even though obviously I kind of got bashed around a little bit in the match. Um, yeah, I'd absolutely love to run that back. I think I will run that back, and I think I'll submit him, to be honest, if we fight Nogi. So this you may see that in 10 days' time.
So I know with Polaris, the format they're doing now for the next year, they're doing teams. So they're doing Team Europe, and then they're doing like South America, Oceania. Potentially, could you see yourself going back on Polaris and running that back if you maybe went over to that Team Europe?
Absolutely, yeah. If the just yeah, if there's a good match to be had, I take it.
Exactly. That's fair. That's fair. So, as someone who's kind of been pushing the limits since 16, what has been your biggest challenge in transitioning to those kind of regional Dublin Open tournaments, to those massive ones, to Polaris, to the ADCCs? Has it been a big mental change for you, or has it just been the same, just competition showing up?
Yeah, I find that the like at the more higher level competition is a lot more challenging mentally, just because there's a lot more eyes on you, and that's something that I have had a hard time dealing with, just because like so often that I was get people randomly at tournaments or anywhere in gyms, things like that, that just say like, "Oh, I watched you fight" or something, and I'm like, for so long it was just me alone in my head doing it, and now it's other people watching. But the probably the hardest transition stage, I think, for people, especially if I was to see this in someone else, is just the belief of being able to win and beat all of the other people who have some kind of recognition or some kind of a name in the grappling scene. Because at the end of the day, people are just people and men are just men, and you you know hard work won't get results. And just being able to see that in your mind is a challenge, especially I think coming from Ireland, because it's a small nation, and it's not like we just have this influx of talent just rolling through
Yeah.
like you might see in Brazil or America. But yeah, that would be kind of my general thoughts on that.
Now, both of us know that being bald isn't just a lifestyle, it's a strategic advantage. Do you
It
think
is, yeah.
do you think the smooth dome gives us an edge by making us harder to control? Because I found I call it the tennis ball. If I have a guy on the ground, I'll use like the kind of scruffy bit of my head and I'll fucking rub it against him.
I find I'm more aerodynamic.
For sure. Yeah, for
I'm
sure.
maybe more intimidating. Um, I think having a bald head, or a voluntarily shaved head, makes you less concerned about your image, which would be something of that
That's
of a
definitely
tough
something I
guy.
found for sure.
Um,
Yeah.
so
Um,
yes, very important.
yeah. Sorry, I had to ask it. I had to ask it. So
I would love to have hair though, to be honest. Like,
I
hold
I
on
had
to it, you
hair
never
for
let
a
it slip through
while.
your
I got
fingers.
rid of it. Best decision I've ever made. Been I think 2 years now without having hair. I had a fringe down to here. Best decision I've ever made.
Nice.
Don't miss having hair at all. So Polaris is one of the bigger platforms on grappling. What was it like competing on Polaris, and did it differ from the environment on ADCC or IBJF in that really high level?
Yeah, Polaris is really good. The setup and the way that they look after the athletes and all is just so professional. And the so like I was chatting to Matt as well after the show, and he was saying that like him and some of the other people that are involved, they put a lot of effort into just generally trying to design a better show constantly. That's why it's always changing the formats, and they're always just like trying to add little bits in, which I think makes a huge difference, because you could just like set up a tournament, get a bit of a brand name behind it, and then just let it run and not really let it evolve. But actually having people that are making an input to be like, okay, we have to, add this in, add that in, change the rules, and also listen to both the competitors and the spectators. It makes a big difference, because yeah, like a lot of shows and organizations just to a degree will just take advantage of the athletes on the basis that they have no other alternatives. So having a professional show that makes a big effort, actually it really matters, in my opinion.
And I think Polaris, I was talking with Matt recently in an interview, and he was talking about how there's going to be a lot of changes with Polaris. I think they're going to be introducing a round system, or they were thinking about it.
Yeah,
Um, there was talks, and I don't think they will for a while, but there was talks of introducing the pit, but it is quite difficult to introduce that whole pit system.
yeah.
But speaking of things getting sent out, I heard there is invitations to CJI too getting sent out. If you had the opportunity to compete on a competition like that, would it be something you'd be interested in?
Yeah, absolutely. No, I'm not gonna say no, am I? No. Uh, yeah, I would love to compete on these shows. Obviously, I just think I need to win a few more big tournaments to really solidify my um, status to be put on these events. But yeah, there's a few other interesting developments in the grappling scene. The UFC are setting up contracts as well for grappling athletes. So I know of a few people that I've heard of being in negotiations. Obviously, one as well is big, and then the CJI, and then there's ADXC as well. So there's a lot more kind of like just groundswell around the professional shows, just because I think since obviously since CJI did the open their numbers up and let people see how many people are competing and how big the shows are. That actually makes a big difference for the companies that are sponsoring the events and that are involved in the events, because they can make a more realistic forecast of what the appropriate amount to spend on these events is, that they can get a return on their investment. So like I think we're going to see a lot more development in that space, with more just eyes and more money coming in. So I think I would absolutely love to have more opportunities for these events.
No, I think you're dead right. I think the grappling scene is developing at a rapid pace, and I think we're on a bit of a surge at the moment. Like you said, with all these competitions, with ADCX, with ADCC, IBJF, Polaris now, you have everything is coming up, and there's just more and more and more and more, which it's just going to push all those high level competitors complete like higher and higher and higher. And I think
Yeah,
there's no turning back, and I think people are really starting to catch an eye for grappling now, which is really really good because it means more money into the sport, which means more people can compete if we can have these better athletes, which I'm really really excited for sure.
absolutely.
So, who are you most excited or cautious about at kind of when for Nogi Worlds, do you approach your game differently when preparing for like such a prestigious tournament, or would you kind of come at it as just a normal IBJF?
Uh, I suppose the rules are always the same in the IBJJF. So like there is that element that it's just the strategy, like obviously the scoring positions of the strategy do matter. Sometimes I'll watch some of my opponents a little bit and just see are there any like obvious weaknesses or things that I should do versus one or fighting one person versus another. I think most of the people now in the brackets I would have fought at some stage, so I know what they feel like and I know what their games are like. So I have a little bit of a kind of a few cogs turning my brain of what the things to do are. But generally speaking, I know what my positions are, what my best game is, and I'm always going to try and play to my own strengths as opposed to adapting to somebody else's game. Um, yeah, I think I definitely looked at the bracket, but I know like who the bigger names are and who the tougher fights are. So I'll be prepared for that. And obviously as well, sometimes with these tournaments, you can have people that come up from Brazil or from somewhere that may not be ranked that could still be very good. So
Yeah.
that's still on my mind too.
So I know at the moment back in the home gym in Brew, you've had a little issue with the water thing. How is that been fixed yet, or is that still an ongoing issue?
Don't get me started on the water.
Oh,
No, we had a pipe burst outside the gym on the Republic Road, so we can't dig it up. So we're waiting for the government, the council to fix it. So hopefully by the what do we we're on the 4th of December. It's been ongoing since the 18th of November. If anybody from the state is listening, but I think it actually might get fixed today. I've heard so.
okay.
Yeah, obviously, not being in the country is slightly challenging to come to terms with this, but hopefully we'll see that'll be fixed
Yeah.
today. And if not, if anybody is listening to this and knows how to get a public road dug up to have a burst pipe fixed, give me a shout. Yeah,
Yeah, no, I've seen it on your story, and I was like, this is something I should probably have him talk about. Get if someone can help, please do give Sam a call.
yeah, I'm
Um,
desperate.
I think that's plenty for us, Sam. Thank you very much for coming on. I really enjoyed this. Um,
Nice, thank you,
so
Dennis.
you're flying out. When are you flying out? In the 10th,
10th, and then I'm competing on 13th and 14th of December.
13th, and 14th. Well, best of luck, Sam. You're gonna fucking smash it. Can't wait to see you win.
Cheers.
Okay,
Thank you, Dennis.
thank you, Sam.
Bye bye.